Cadillac introduced the Eldorado in 1953, named for the legendary Lost City of Gold. Initially just a specially trimmed Model 62 convertible with a lower belt line, priced just below $7,800. It was still 221 inches long on a 126-inch wheelbase and weighed 5,000 pounds, with Cadillac's 5.4-liter 331 cubic inch V8 with 210 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. 532 were made. For 1954, they no longer got the lowered belt line, sharing its body panels with other Model 62s. This reduced the price by $2,000, and sales climbed to $2,150. And the special trim now included rear quarter beauty panels. Like other Model 62s that year, length was up to 224 inches, wheelbase to 129, and horsepower to 230. 1955 models got distinct rear styling, with thinner, more defined fins and unique taillights. Horsepower was up to 270, and prices were back up to $6,300, while sales were nearly $4,000. For 1956, there was a new Eldorado Seville Coupe version, and the Eldorado convertible was now called the Eldorado Barrettes, bringing sales to over 6,000. All Cadillacs were restyled for 1957, 2 inches shorter but up to a 130-inch wheelbase for the Eldorado Coupe and convertible, and they kept their distinct rear styling with the return of the beauty panels. But there was also a new, smaller Eldorado Brougham sedan on a 126-inch wheelbase and 219 inches long, with its very own styling that included quad headlights and suicide, or rear-hinged, back doors. Available features included low-profile tires, dual 4-barrel carburetors, self-leveling air suspension, cruise control, power antenna, air conditioning, polarized sun visors, and the very first memory power seats. Starting at $13,000, it was one of the most expensive cars on the market at the time, and only about 700 would be built over 2 years. Other Eldorados and all other Cadillacs got updated front styling with quad headlamps for 1958. The cars would get longer, lower, and wider for 1959, gaining 3 inches in overall length, looking like much more thanks to its 5 inches of reduced height. But once again, the Eldorado shared its body with other Cadillacs, and fins would be at their peak. Engine was up to a 6.4-liter 390 with 345 horsepower and 435 pound-feet of torque, and prices starting just above $7,400 for the coupe. Although it no longer had its own styling, there was still a more expensive 4-door Brougham version that would carry on through 1960, although fins and overall styling would be subdued somewhat that year. With the 1961 redesign, the Eldorado would effectively become the convertible version of the DeVille. As such, sales were back under 1,500, and the new cars were back down the 3 inches in length. They would only see minor styling updates for 1962, but the 1963 models would be updated in style once again, with several revisions, and it got slightly longer. And for 1964, the engine was upgraded to a 7-liter 429, with 340 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. The Barrettes was dropped from the name in 1965, with yet another restyle, and the car became the Fleetwood Eldorado, getting slightly longer again. And even more features were added, including headrests and an AM/FM stereo. But 1967 would be the year the Eldorado moved away from the standard line into the personal luxury coupe market, and would start sharing its platform with the front-wheel drive Oldsmobile Toronado, although with very clear Cadillac styling cues. On a smaller 120-inch wheelbase, it was only 221 inches long and 4,700 pounds, and was considered a good handling car for the period. Still powered by Cadillac's 429, it got to 60 in under 9 seconds and topped 120 miles an hour. Priced at $6,300 to start, sales were up to nearly $18,000. Cadillac upgraded to a 7.7-liter 472 cubic inch V8 for 1968, bumping output to 375 horsepower and 525 pound-feet of torque, and disc brakes became standard. Then the hidden headlights went away for 1969. The Eldorado got an exclusive 8.2-liter 500 cubic inch engine for 1970, the largest ever regular production V8, let alone one in a front-wheel drive, with 400 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque. and a power sunroof became available. The big car could do a 7.5-second 0 to 60, a mid-15-second quarter mile, and reach speeds over 130 miles an hour. The 1971 redesign was 2 inches longer on a 6-inch longer wheelbase, and gained standard fender skirts. Although it only gained 100 pounds, it appeared significantly more substantial. It also gained a lamp monitor system, or fender-mounted indicators for turn signals, brights, and parking lights. And there was once again a convertible version. The 500 cubic inch V8 carried over. A test car hit speeds near 120 miles an hour, did 60 in 9.7 seconds, a low 17-second quarter mile, and got 11 miles per gallon. Starting price was up to $7,400, and sales were just over $27,000. Aside from script changes to the badging, other changes for 1972 included the industry move to net power ratings, giving it a rating of 235 horsepower and 385 pound-feet of torque, taking a bigger hit than most cars, partially due to the high amount of standard accessories. Federally mandated 5-mile-an-hour bumpers forced minor styling updates for 1974, and a year later it became one of the first American cars with rectangular headlights. It was dubbed the last American convertible in 1976, with 14,000 being sold, including 2,000 bicentennial versions of less than 50,000 Eldorados in total. The Barrett's name returned that year as a luxury package, with a padded landau top and pillow seats. The engine would be reduced to 7 liters and 425 cubic inches for 1977, with 180 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. And although factory convertibles would be gone, coach builders would still convert some. The Eldorado would get downsized for 1979, along with its Oldsmobile Toronado counterpart, and the Buick Riviera, which was now also front-wheel drive, down to 204 inches on a 114-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,900 pounds. Price was near $15,000, and sales were well above $65,000. Oldsmobile's Rocket 5.7-liter 350 was made available in both 170 horsepower, 280 pound-foot of torque gas and 125 horsepower, 225 pound-feet of torque diesel versions, with the gas version being a mid-18-second car. But the bigger 180 horsepower 425 was still offered. Power was down for 1980, 160 for the gas 5.7-liter, 105 for the diesel, and the 7-liter would be replaced by a 6-liter, 368 cubic inch V8, with 145 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque, which became available with cylinder deactivation for 1981, called the Variable Displacement 468, or the V864. It also became the first Cadillac to use a V6 in 1981, a 4.1-liter Buick engine with 125 horsepower and 205 pound-feet of torque. Then Cadillac introduced the high-technology 4100 V8 for 1982, with 125 horsepower and 190 pound-feet of torque, which would now be the only gasoline V8 offered in the Eldorado. It still managed to be 5 miles an hour faster and a half a second quicker to 60 than the V6 version, and a touring package also became available, with heavy-duty suspension and alloy wheels. An in-house convertible would return in 1984, helping make it the Eldorado's best-selling year at roughly $78,000. But this generation would end in 1985, with a commemorative edition, naturally. In anticipation of rising fuel prices, the Eldorado was downsized again for 1986, now only 188 inches long on a 108-inch wheelbase and weighing 3,400 pounds. The 4.1-liter V8 was the only engine, now up to 130 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque, but not quite as quick as the previous model. And from this point going forward, the Seville was essentially just a 4-door Eldorado, having been little more than that since 1980. Appealing to neither traditional Cadillac buyers or buyers of luxury imports, Eldorado's sales dropped to nearly a quarter of the previous model, leading to a price freeze for 1987 of about $24,000 and a restructuring of options that now included a car phone. The body was stretched 3 inches for 1988, the interior was updated, and the engine increased to 4.5 liters with 155 horsepower and 240 pound-feet of torque. Sales nearly doubled to 33,000. The Snowflake alloy wheels became standard in 1989, and a CD player was optional. The HTV8 engine increased in size again for 1991, now up to 4.9 liters with 200 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque, backed by a 4-speed automatic, nearly knocking a second off acceleration times with a 0 to 60 of 8.5, quarter mile of 16.5, and a top speed over 125. Adaptive suspension was added, improving handling, although starting price was now well over $30,000. The 1992 restyle made the cars 11 inches longer and 3 inches wider on the same 108-inch wheelbase, weighing 3,600 to 4,000 pounds. Starting price was just over $38,000, with sales above $41,000. And a new 4.6-liter North Star V8 system became available in the Touring Coupe and Sport Coupe versions, with 270 to 295 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. The top Touring Coupe could exceed 150 miles an hour, do 60 in 7 seconds, and do a low 15-second quarter mile. 1995 models got a mild refresh, and 1996 got an interior update that included steering wheel controls and large analog gauges. The Buick Riviera was killed off after 1999, leaving the Eldorado alone on its platform, which would last long enough for a commemorative collector's edition in 2002, when it was effectively replaced by the XLR, which shared its platform with the Corvette. Perhaps more of a successor to the Elante, Cadillac has made other coupes since the demise of the Eldorado, but none with the presence, status, or success, nor are they likely to anytime soon. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below and like and subscribe.